My son, Abram Howard, was very compassionate and caring. He was a leader. Abram's great uncle, Sam, nicknamed Sonny, he was in the Marines. He was never married. Abe's grandfather, my father-in-law, he served in the Marines, and then Abe's father served. He was in the Marines. There's several family members. Abe was number around 13 of the Marines in our family. You know, it made everybody proud, and I think it was a big influence.
Last thing anybody wants to do is follow blindly into your father's footsteps if it's not what you want to do, but it wasn't forced.
An important thing to remember about Abe and guys like him, he didn't have to serve. He had options. He didn't resort to the Marine Corps because it was something that Howard men did. But I think that's an important kind of take-home thing, is that he didn't have to serve, he chose to.
I feel he was an old soul. He was beyond his years. He just carried himself in such a way that his friends looked up to him. He was just very caring. He'd do anything for anybody.
Literally would give you the shirt off his back, so I did bring it. So this is it's a unit t-shirt that he had, his MP company, Pittsburgh. I don't even know, there might be some guys looking for one of these, but it's mine, so.
This water up here at Rock Run is ice cold, and so I'm just gonna take the plunge right now.
Up where we're from, there's an area called Rock Run, like year-round cold. I think they're limestone streams, and we would go up there and swim in the summer, mainly because that's the only time it's tolerable to get in the water. And I was soaking wet and cold, and he literally gave me a shirt, not his shirt, but a shirt, and we're basically the same size. And that was not long before he had left for that deployment. I didn't really wear it much, I figured I'd give it to him when he got back. And I still don't wear it, but it's, now it's a treasured possession of mine. It's not something that I pull out and look at. For a number of years, I couldn't even look at it, but it's just a tangible piece of the kind of person he was, of him. Maybe my perspective's a little skewed because I was in the military and I'm a first responder now, but I think that sometimes people have this grand idea that acts of service have to be big and these grand gestures, and that's not necessarily the case. Abe was always one of the ones that was the shoulder or the ear for people to go to. So he just kind of served through just being him and being present.
This morning, a U.S. Marine has died while serving in Afghanistan.
The family of a U.S. Marine killed in Afghanistan is waiting for the military to bring him home. We have no word yet officially on what happened, but his family believes that he was hit by a missile fired by a militant.
It was very confusing for me because, you're told one thing by the government, but then you hear the stories of what actually happened. It was going to be Abe's last mission, and turned into an ambush. And Abe, who has the eyesight, he can see whatever in the woods. When we'd go to our cabin, he'd say, "There's a deer up there," and you'd stop and you're looking and you couldn't see it, but then he'd give the direction, and it was like, oh my gosh, how'd you see that? But he spotted someone, and he had his gun up to shoot, but this guy had an RPG. That's the story. I was told it was a roadside bomb. So it's completely different. And what his guys in his unit say is his actions saved their lives.
I mean, that right there, perfect example. To the very end, he was a guy that he didn't have to be there, he didn't have to do it, but that was his choice. I, with my whole heart, believe that if that choice had to be made that day, him or other people that he would make that choice every time and never regret it. So, yeah, I think in the context of Veterans Day that's a sentiment that's shared by a lot of vets.
I think it was the first year President Obama allowed family to be down there to see the bodies come off the plane, and it was important for me to be there. And I was so thankful because I thought of all the parents that didn't get to see this. At the time, there was an eagle just flying and doing circles. So when we were followed home by the motorcade and everything, this eagle followed us the whole way. And when we got to Williamsport, you would have thought he was a dignitary.
Coming down the highway, I mean, all the traffic was pulled over. You'd thought President Kennedy was being transported. It was pretty amazing.
The businesses shut down and the people came out on the street and the streets were lined up the whole way. I mean, these people came from all over. Didn't even know him. I just thought, what did this kid do? You know? Because it was beyond my reach.
It was extremely overwhelming, the amount of support that our community showed to us. And I mean, people came from outside of the county, all over the state. We just did not expect that. We knew a lot of veterans just growing up in our community, and the outpouring of people that just came out, it was unbelievable. If you ever seen the end of American Sniper when it shows Chris Kyle's procession, it was very reminiscent of that. I guess you could say he took his place among, standing shoulder to shoulder with anybody that's ever served. That was his place in history, I guess. I know my life is forever changed and it's never going to be the same. Our family was never the same after that. A piece of all of us died, The pain that, but I could just say that if I owe my brother anything, I owe him to live a good life, a meaningful life, because he gave his up.
Abe gave his life. He didn't lose it. Service to country is like signing that blank check. You sign a blank check to your country to do whatever it is to keep it safe. So when I got the call from Captain John Schneider sending his condolences from Afghanistan, he said, "What can we do for you?" And I said, "For you, you need to have closure." So, and when those guys came home, we were the first ones to get there. They had to stand at attention and stuff, and I could tell by some of their eyes that they were surprised to see us and happy. So when they were done greeting their families and that, they came to us and just said, Abe made promises. He talked about hunting and hanging out at our cabin, which is called the Crooked Shot. And he promised them that he would take them back there and hunt. And they said, "I suppose that's not going to happen." And I said, "No." I said, "It will." And I said, "We'd like to have y'all. You come up and stay at our cabin." So they came, and I was just sitting on a bench that faces the cabin, and it was kind of dark, and you could see the lights and them sitting in there and talking and that, and the one, Greg Saffron, he came out and sat with me, and he said, "We're talking about doing this. We'd like to do this every year on his death anniversary, so every July 27th. So we planned, and they had a weekend, had all kinds of food, friends, family from Williamsport, and then all these guys and their girlfriends, and we had tents, and I mean, it was just absolutely, it was a beautiful weekend. And we sit around the fire and just tell stories, and we are still doing it.
There are children that have been born that never met him, that have his name. Abram will live forever.